Welcome back to the Weekly News Roundup. I hope that everybody's having a wonderful week, getting ready for a wonderful weekend, and we have a little bit of a show here today. So we are broadcasting now from the mountain time zone, moving across from the plains deserts. We are jumping on in, and hopefully we got some new folks hanging around. I know that the video we did yesterday was pretty popular, so welcome if you came from that. Say hello, and if you are concerned about the googliness, we do have, I think we are streaming this 5 different places: YouTube, Odyssey, Rumble, Twitch, and the lost stepchild called DLive, which I don't know what's going on over there. Last time I knew, it was one dude spamming a bunch of hatred towards himself, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, that's kind of what's going on. There will not be any extra video this weekend. We should be back hopefully Monday. Hopefully. I'm visiting people for the next few days, and so my work time is limited, and we're trying to resolve some issues on one of the websites that I manage for somebody as well. So that's going to take some extra time. But anyway, we do have 2 topics for us today. We are going to be talking, what are our 2 topics today? I can't even remember. Yes, we are going to be combating the police state, and then very brief deep dive on video evidence is now dead. So, you know, you could clip this video here of my face. You only give you good profile pictures everywhere, right? You hear the voice and thousands of videos to pull from, and then, yeah, you can pretty much make me say whatever you want to say. Did I really say it? Well, if it's bad for the world, I'll just deny I said it. If it's good for the world, I'll just take credit for what I said it. And if it's truthful or not truthful, well, who cares anymore, right? It doesn't matter if somebody speaks the truth or not. All that really matters is that, you know, people are outraged or not outraged by things are going on. But anyway, apparently Kermit's in my throat. Just a warning: the show, the first portion today, there's elements that get a little political, but you know, put on your big boy pants and listen up, and I don't know, you might actually learn something. Who knows? And it's not provocatively that way. It's just it's necessary to talk about the privacy issues that we must battle in our current world. Before we get into that, if you want to help support the channel, we do have monthly support sites, Locals, Patreon, and Subscribestar over there as well. There are a grouping of affiliates and stuff like that. If you want to help support the channel, that is your best way to do it. And without any further ado, let's go ahead and get into our first topic. Welcome to the Weekly News Roundup. We're going to do a deep dive discussion into combating the police state. I want to talk about this from a couple different perspectives here, and just mention just a few of the articles that are going around, and talk about a little bit about the nonsense on both political aisles that led to the crazy things that our world is so outraged about right this moment. And to start this, we are going to go over into the EU. Because over there in the EU, the Danish presidency, which is now right now, like they roll through different people who are in charge, and the country in charge right now is Danish, and they are really all about breaking encryption and spying on everything. Basically, they want a pure totalitarian state. Think 1984. Think V for Vendetta. You can just think about all of the more atrocious means of collecting data. Well, Element has come out. Of course, if you use Matrix, we do have a Matrix channel. You can search up Switch to Linux channel in the public channels list over there. We use Element to access that. At least I do, and several of the people there do. Of course, you can use whatever platform to access the Matrix system that you want. But Element is one of several companies that have come out against this open chat system that is going around. So effectively what this is the Danish presidency really, really wants to see 1984 come to play. He read George Orwell's book. He read 1984 and goes, wow, this is a society I would like to be Big Brother of. Of course, V for Vendetta. You have the Chancellor, who's fully in charge of everything. Just throwing out both of those. Some of the audience may want to read. Some of the audience may want to watch movies. Of course, there are 1984 rendition movies. I haven't seen the newer one. I've seen the older one. But of course, in that is a pure totalitarian state. Everything. Now, the world, the way the world is different, though, is in 1984, of which V for Vendetta tends to take a lot of their plays from. It's not that everybody is perpetually spied on. It's that everybody at any given time could be spied on. Now, in the movie rendition, the old public domain movie rendition of the book, it does appear they are constantly spied on, because every single time Winston does something in front of a camera, indeed, they know about it. So it begs the question, how many people are out there? The problem we have in our current world is we have this infinite ability to collect data, and the infinite ability to store data, and the infinite ability to access data. And this lends itself, even if what you're doing is not a crime today, what you are doing could be a crime in a future iteration. And do we want them to proactively go back and research through those databases? And it's like, well, that could never happen, except it did. It did happen. IBM worked with Nazi Germany. Actually, it was before Nazi Germany. They worked with Germany before Hitler took power to create databases of just a number of different things, heritage and religion and status and things like this. It was that database that when Hitler took power, accessed that database to find all of the people, and that became the basis by which he searched for everybody. So maintaining a database and constantly watching and monitoring is part of the big problems here. And so having a look at this blog post here from Element, they want to express their deepest concerns regarding the current approach to the proposed regulation of CSA. I guess CSAM is now the old word. Now it's CSA. Go figure. Anyway, they say that this proposal they're pushing would take us closer to a world of constant surveillance and endanger EU's strategic goal of digital sovereignty. Remember, EU has this goal of digital sovereignty. Of course, that means that they want to be in control of their own digital systems, and they're not if they are backdoors. And Element goes on to say, creating a backdoor for the good people to do good things will always shortly be exploited by bad people who do bad things. And I'll remind you that over the course of this last summer, and I think even in the spring and into the summer, maybe even last year, there were, it was made known that Chinese hackers had basically infiltrated nearly any form of messaging done by U.S. telecom companies. AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, the three biggest ones, nobody was safe. They were in all of them. They were intercepting messages. How did they get in there? They got in there by the back doors that those telecoms were forced by law to put in to allow wiretapping to occur. Now, the problem is that it's one thing if the ability is there, the door is closed, and the warrant is the key to open it up. The problem is the hackers found a way to open up without the warrant, and we're perpetually in there. In these modern views that are being proposed, there is no warrant. It is a perpetual ability to be in that back door and be accessing things. And we're going to get into that as we have a little bit of a discussion on filtered dragnets, which was an interesting concept out of the California Law Center. Element is calling on the European leaders to reject the current proposal and any other proposals which would force the implementation of client-side scanning, backdoors, or mass surveillance of private communications. And there is inside of the open letter, they're discussing once again that the approach would not only make the internet less safe for everyone, but also undermine one of EU's most important strategic goals, progressing toward higher levels of digital sovereignty. Of course, the digital sovereignty, as we said, is that those individual countries have access to all of their data, and they're the ones that store it. Of course, this was something South Korea was trying to do until their data center burnt down. Whoops. But the reality is, and when you're talking about these digital sovereignty situations, they didn't do it right. They were mandating things be on their individual servers, and then they didn't have any redundancy built in. So redundancy is good, and you can maintain digital sovereignty in that. They kind of talk about it. National security, they say encryption is essential for national security. This is true. Of course, one of the things we're seeing here is there's a lot of laws for thee and laws for me and not for thee. So, big influential leaders or quote unquote powerful people are typically excluded from such things. But still at the same time, we want encryption to lock our accounts. We want encryption to secure our transactions, but we don't want encryption to make sure that we can always read every message that you're sending to somebody else. Even though it's pretty well known that the people that are going to do bad things are going to use other resources to get around the bad things. I mean, look at all this ID stuff. The IDs going around. They're trying to verify everybody's ID. Google's trying to do it, and now Blue Sky's checking your IDs in Ohio, and these are rolling out in many, many different places. And the problem is, well, the people up to bad stuff, they're just going to do it. People doing up to bad stuff too. Criminals going to criminal, they're just going to steal IDs and use those. So in the which is awesome for them actually, because it draws us more attention away from them than if there wasn't any such thing. Okay, they steal somebody's ID, and now it says, oh, well, we know who that is. It's this ID. And so, you're just sipping your latte at 7 in the morning, trying to get your kindergartner to actually put his shirt on right. And you got 3 other kids running through the house wild while you're yelling at them to eat their oatmeal. And before you know it, the FBI kicks in your door because some criminal did the criminal thing and stole your ID because it was forced to be uploaded to some stupid server. They stole it. They did criminal things utilizing your ID. And now the FBI is kicking in your door. Well, that's kind of stupid. And that's the type of stuff that always happens when you get into this. All right. So the legal text here would undermine European ethical and privacy first services by forcing them to weaken the very security guarantees that differentiates European businesses internationally. They mentioned that this contradicts the digital ambitions. The policies recognize encryption as essential to Europe's digital independence, and the CSA, this is a CSAM regulation, should not undermine these achievements by effectively mandating systemic vulnerabilities, which it does. And then they mention over here that the ones most at risk, just like the United States, are the small and medium-sized enterprises, the SMEs. So the SMEs do not have the financial and the technical resources to develop and maintain intrusive surveillance mechanisms, meaning compliance would impose prohibitive costs to force market exit. So look at Blue Sky here in the States. They have simply walked away from Mississippi because the law in Mississippi is so overwhelmingly stupid that there's no way to not be caught up into it. Whereas Ohio, the law there is not as bad, and they can use the kiddo verification system, which is going to be the next big thing that we're going to start seeing breaches of. Mark my words. And then they call on a number of different reasons that the element is calling on them. So reject the measures that would force the implementation of client-side scanning, backdoors, mass surveillance of private communications, such as we see currently in the Danish proposal for a council position for CSAM regulation. Protect encryption, preserve the trust that they have built internationally, through encryption, by the way. Ensure the EU regulations strengthen rather than undermines the competitiveness of small businesses, and pursue child protection measures that are effective, proportionate, and compatible with Europe's strategic goals. How do you do that? Well, you simply use basic policing. And I wanted to talk about a couple different options here. One of those is how was Silk Road caught? So Silk Road, of course, whether you think it was really good or really bad, or whether you're independent, if you're a pure libertarian, you thought the takedown of Silk Road was probably not good. If you're like, ooh, they were doing bad stuff, then you probably are pleased with the takedown of it. They could not find all these ways around it. Dragnets couldn't do it. They did good old-fashioned police work. The guy running it, the dread Pirate Roberts, made a simple mistake, and then he intensified that mistake by using an accidentally leaked username as a username, asking on a technical help forum for something that was traced back to something needed for the store. They were able to trace that then back to an IP address, even though he was utilizing the Tor network. They were able to track this back to an IP address, which led to either a coffee shop or a library. So they simply staked out that place, looking for who was there utilizing those services at the time. They got a warrant to watch that person more closely, and it turned out that they did some good old-fashioned police work to seize the computer before he was able to shut it down or log it out. And they did good old-fashioned police work, and I'm okay with good old-fashioned police work done in that manner. I have another case. I wasn't sure that I wanted to share this one or not, but I'm going to. This relates to this is a situation about one of the many children I've worked with over the years had a person close to them caught up in a CSAM sting. And again, it wasn't a dragnet that caused this. It was actually good old-fashioned police work, because that person was being a pervert and talking to other people on the internet, and one of those people ended up running away. And in part of the basic investigations, the parents said, here's all of her stuff. Do whatever you need to do to research it. And lo and behold, it turns out that they found all these chat logs, and one of them was this crazy perverted dude. So they just simply did the thing that police do, good police work, and they said, hey, this crazy perverted dude seemed to be doing crazy perverted things with this person we're investigating. Let's get a warrant for him because we have justable cause. They did such a warrant, executed it, and he ended up serving time in prison. And that was, again, good old-fashioned police work. You do not need a dragnet. Now, would a dragnet have caught this sooner? Maybe, maybe not. Because one of the things we're seeing right now is how many false positives. In fact, just this week, there were a lot of people's Google accounts had been canceled because they were utilizing an app which I think actually originated from Google. It was one of the AI apps that come out recently, and there was a hashtag trend going around, which was a picture with your younger self. And the idea is you would take a picture of you now and a picture of you as a child, and you would have the AI show you as hugging each other. And Google, despite this trend being used, I think it was by Google services, Google started flagging all these things as potential CSAM. And the problem is if Google flags your account as potential CSAM, even if you are cleared after an investigation, Google doesn't give you your account back. So we see these dragnets are leading to a whole ton of false positives, which then leads to giant dragging people through the mud all over AI systems. And that's unfortunately the consequence of a dragnet. But I want to move over here into United States because there's two fairly competing views here, and I want to talk about this. And this is where if you're like sitting on one side or the other really strongly about this issue, please just hear me out for a brief moment, because you have these ICE raids going on where they're arresting people who are committing legitimate crimes, and we're not just talking the crime of coming into the country illegally, which is a crime and you should get deported, but they are prioritizing people who also have done other forms of violent crimes. All right. And what you have is a situation where this has to be done the way it's being done because so many people were let in without being vetted, and actual crime was breaking out all across the country. And so we have this situation with ICE. All right. Now, all that being said, it would have been way better if people just, prosecuted criminals the first time. And when in the course of the prosecution said, you're actually not here legally, and simply handed them over, or at the very least didn't stop ICE from finding the people. All right. Now, that is a system that is functional is what? Standard policing, right? Somebody does a crime, the police investigate, they find somebody, and then they go, oh, wow, look at this. We actually happen to have a person here who's not here legally, who's committing other crimes. If we hand them over, it solves the problem. But we're seeing a situation where people are committing, whether they're here legally or not, committing crimes. The police are doing their job. They're taking them into the courts, and the courts are simply letting them out on the streets. And that leads to more crime and things like that. Well, if they had done the right thing first, we wouldn't have to have this giant response. And so what does ICE do in this giant response? Well, now they want to turn to big tech. And this is where I disagree with them. I do not want ICE running stingrays. I do not want ICE running flock cameras. I do not want ICE doing any form of that stuff. I want ICE to cooperate with local police. When local police find somebody who needs to be deported, they should be like, hey, ICE, we got a guy, come get him. Excellent. That would be police. But now, since there's so much pushback against ICE, ICE feels they have to do the only thing they can do, which is deep state surveillance, which is a problem. Once again, are you seeing these V for Vendetta vibes show up? What are they going to do? The only thing they know how to do. And what are they going to do? They're going to fight back, And this is the thing that's going to happen. This is a problem caused by policies that will not treat criminals the way criminals need to be treated. Okay, so ICE buys a bunch of vehicles equipped with fake cell towers to spy on phones. So they're bringing these giant vehicles in. This is an $825,000 contract, by the way. So the vehicles are being equipped with Stingrays. And the company here is TOSV, Tech Ops Specialty Vehicles, which is based in Maryland, curiously close to D.C. Funny. So TOSV also signed a similar contract with ICE in September, which, by the way, is before Orange Man Bad. This is not a Trump situation, folks. This is a Biden situation, too. Both parties, the Democrats and the Republicans, are both complicit in deep state surveillance, and I'm not agreeing to any of it. All right. So we do not, well, that's just a quote from the company. Who cares? They basically are saying, yeah, we don't make this stuff. We just equip the vehicles with it. So what happened here is that ICE was using the cell site simulators to track down the persons who was originally part of a criminal gang in the United States who had been ordered to leave the country in 2023. So you see here that they had to use a cell phone tracker. They had to use a Stingray to find a person who was supposed to be out of the country a long time ago. Why? Because he had already been convicted of criminal activity. You see, if our state was working properly and the criminal did the criminal activity and they found out they was not actually under the right jurisdiction and hand him over to be deported, it wouldn't be a problem and they would not feel the need to run these cell site simulators. But unfortunately, I feel the need to run the cell site simulators because there's so many people that are completely unhinged and apparently want criminals running through our streets that they are blocking the law enforcement from actually doing their job. And that is a bit of a problem. And so I do not want ICE to have the Stingrays. All right. But they are, because other means of utilizing these services are not being effective. In other words, they're getting blocked at every turn, so they are turning to the only way they know to keep tabs on the people. They have to turn to the deep state because people do not want them to actually be doing their job. Now, while I do not want these to happen, I would kind of like to have these ICE tracking agents apps up here. However, with a caveat. And let me explain my caveat. Again, if there is a bunch of unhinged lunatics interfering with police work, this is a bad thing. And if people are using these to rally giant groups and provoke ICE agents from doing their job, that is a problem. But the mere fact we have an app which tells you where they happen to be at is not necessarily a problem. And for this, I cite the fact that we oftentimes use these apps on our phones for driving, and people will often go on there and report where police happen to be at. Well, it's not really a problem if I'm driving down the road and I get beep, 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 alert, there's a police officer coming up. If a bunch of people are coming in there seeing that and all swarming the police and starting to do violent things to the police, and the police have to act in the way police act, I'm sorry, that's just FAFO. But if people see that and go, oh, there's a police ahead, I should slow down and make sure I'm obeying the posted speed limits, it's been useful information, that's fine. The tech is used to help the citizens, which is exactly the way tech should go. These people are our civil servants, not our masters, okay? It is us who need to have the technological advance over the police state, okay? It needs to be a citizen state. Why? For the purpose not of swarming the officer and impeding his job, but so that you can obey the law. I'm okay with that. And if people are using these, so some illegal immigrant has this device on his phone, go, oh, there's ICE agents that way, I'm going to go this way instead, I'm okay with that. But to say we're going to have these apps so that people can swarm them and interfere with our work and call them all sorts of, mid-1940s German soldier names, I'm not okay with that. So I do not want this app to be taken off the App Store, but I don't want people to use this app as a means to harass the agents from doing their jobs. if they are using this app to become a better law-abiding citizen, that is a perfectly fine thing. All right. So that's kind of where my take is on this. But this kind of got into a little bit more of some deeper discussions with things. And so I wanted to have a look at a couple of things here. From Hartman Law, the pros and the cons of government surveillance programs. Because this is really the thing. And the challenge is that at least in the United States, I'm a United States citizen. I'm not speaking to how the law is supposed to work in other countries. I know UK is a monarchy and EU, I don't know what it is. And you get all sorts of different circumstances. I am speaking here from a person in the United States applying to United States law. And in United States law, the government is done at the consent of the people. In other words, the people are the masters of the government, not the government the masters of the people. The government are the civil servants to keep the order in the society and to assist the citizens in the society, not taskmasters over the society. And that is where the philosophy has flipped. And ultimately, if we had the gonads in this country, we might actually vote people out of office who abuse the power and think that they are the masters, humble them by getting them out of office, and elect people in who are not. Unfortunately, the challenge is that more often than not, it's only sociopaths who run for office. So good luck with that. We are technically a country run by a bunch of psychos. So anyway, the psychos get together and they want to engage in government surveillance because government surveillance is the only way to catch all them bad guys, all them juicy, saucy bad guys. Government surveillance programs have been a topic of intense debate over many years, particularly in the wake of advancements in technology that have dramatically increased the capabilities of such programs. How wonderful. So the balance between ensuring safety and preserving individual freedoms is a delicate one, and these programs continue to evolve and do so to the arguments to and against them. All right, so ultimately, the thing is that we cannot have, in a world of privacy, we cannot have ultimate security. In a world of security, we cannot have any privacy. And this is that balance. In fact, I think it was Benjamin Franklin, I think, is quoted as saying, "He who wants to trade privacy for security deserves neither." And this is the thing we have to get to. We have to recognize that we are supposed to be the ones responsible for ourselves, for our families. Let's let us have the ability to protect ourselves, i.e., that's why we have a Second Amendment in the United States. And in the course of all of that, let's go ahead and have the ability to defend ourselves and to take care of ourselves and protect ourselves. And let's turn to the government to enforce that on people that are attempting to overrun our rights. And that really is the way it's supposed to be done. The challenge is that the government wants to say, well, no. We want to be the ones monitoring all of society to make sure that nobody's breaking the rules to begin with. And that's not the spirit of American law. American law is not a system which is always looking for who's doing wrong. We all have a presumption of being innocent until proven guilty. And so any form of surveilling somebody, assuming they might be doing wrong, is inherently fundamentally un-American and needs to be cast off. We need to have that privacy. It's only when a crime is committed or attempted to be committed is when the law enforcement steps up and does their job. The problem is, going back to our earlier discussion, when these types of things happen, we have to have a situation where the actual ruling authorities, I shouldn't say ruling authorities, the government officials have to follow the sentencing structures set up to keep those criminals out of society. And for Lord's sake, if somebody is not competent to stand trial for murdering somebody, they do not need to be walking the streets. They need to be in an institution. Whether that is jail or a mental institution is a completely different question, but that's kind of what we're arguing, because we're seeing in our modern iteration of law, people actually committing horribly violent crimes, but they're saying, we're just not mentally capable of standing trial. Okay, let them back on the streets. Well, that makes about as much sense as, I don't know, a beanbag in the ocean or something. Who knows? I'm just making up two random words now. The justification for government surveillance, one of the primary justifications, is the need to protect national security. The ability to monitor communications, track movements, and gather data on individuals and organizations suspected of posing a threat is viewed as a critical tool in the fight against terrorism and other forms of crime. This is where portions of the Patriot Act and the PRISM programs had a good spirit behind them. Hey, we're not surveilling Americans. We're just surveilling international people. The problem is sometimes international people talk to American people. And I think and once an American gets on the line, I think that completely that poisons the well of any data. That should be the case. Let's track that guy's other conversations as well. But that's really the thing is if you're going to monitor conversations outside the country, I guess have at it. Unfortunately, we have the Five Eyes. We can't surveil our own citizens, but UK can surveil our citizens. We can surveil the UK citizens, and then the two governments can share notes on each other. Yeah, that should be against the law as well, but oh well. So the ability to monitor communications, track movements, and gather data on individuals and organizations suspected of posing a threat is viewed as a critical tool in the fight against terrorism and other forms of crime. They also note that surveillance programs deter criminal activity, which is partially true. And government surveillance programs can also contribute to public safety by helping to identify and respond to emergencies. The problem is there's so much information being tracked, it becomes useless to helping to do any of that. And so some people recognize that. Now, there are concerns surrounding surveillance programs. One of the most prominent criticisms is they can lead to the erosion of individual freedoms and the widespread collection and storage of personal data, often without the knowledge or consent of the individuals resolved, raise serious questions about the right to privacy. And this is true because in the United States, we have a Constitution. In the Constitution, we have the Fourth Amendment. Fourth Amendment says the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue but upon probable cause supported by an oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. Which pretty much means every form of digital surveillance that is not without the direct consent is a violation. However, we also have all of these stupid privacy policies tied to all these stupid apps that basically sign away the Fourth Amendment for you if you use the app, and then it just depends on do they have a chummy relationship with the United States government or not. Because if you've already given it to the company to do, well, you've just excluded yourself from this, and that's why I recommend people do not use any apps or services that you do not fully understand or do not fully need. But the fact of the matter is that if a government should not have the ability to do a gag warrant, nor should a government have the ability to do any form of data surveillance, whether directly or indirectly through a third-party contractor, a third-party service, a third-party company. They should not be able to do any of that kind of stuff. But unfortunately, this Fourth Amendment is being violated a lot. But we're going to get into some mentally deranged people who want to see the Fourth Amendment evolve. Yes, the evolution of the amendment, folks. Who would have thunk it? First peppered Maz, now the Constitution. Evolution is a thing, right? So they say down here, this can have a chilling effect on free speech and other fundamental rights, which is true because the data surveillance inadvertently leads to being silenced for your political speech. And that's really the purpose of the First Amendment. Government surveillance programs are often shrouded in secrecy with little accountability or oversight, and the transparency can create opportunities for misuse, whether by individuals within the government or the institutions themselves, and that the surveillance tools go beyond the stated objectives such as targeting political opponents or to engage in discriminatory practices. And we do see this a lot. There is a person of the Biden administration prosecuted for a spicy meme against Hillary Clinton, although people were doing the exact same thing against Donald Trump, and nobody seemed to do anything about that. Again, it was a particular political opponent that was targeted, not the people on their side. So in many cases, the sheer volume of data collected can be overwhelming, making it difficult for authorities to identify genuine threats. This is true. I was trying to find the data that backs this up because I've seen it quoted several times, but it seems to be scrubbed from the internet. But there was apparently some data somewhere showing that not a single criminal had been apprehended because of the Patriot Act downstream effects. And I was not able to find any information on that one way or the other. They do mention down here under the legal and ethical implications, of the government surveillance programs. In democratic societies, the government is supposed to serve the people and protect their rights. However, when surveillance programs are implemented without the knowledge or consent of the public, it can create a sense of betrayal. That is true. So how do we balance security and privacy in the age of surveillance? Governments should ensure that their surveillance programs are in line with international human rights standards and that individuals have the ability to challenge surveillance practices witnesses in court. Unfortunately, if the police have a warrant to search your house, you know it. But if they have a warrant to search your Microsoft account or your Google account, they often issue those warrants with a gag, and so you do not know that your data is being accessed or harvested. And that in and of itself is a fundamental problem that needs to change. And then we got into this interesting discussion. I wanted to look into this. This is a really long article, and it is a really fascinating read. And I'll just remind you here, the links to our show are in the description of the video, whether you're watching the edited version or the full live stream. I would encourage you to read this. This is from the Southern California Law Review. And what they're basically trying to make the argument here is that the Fourth Amendment has to evolve to allow what's called filtered dragnets, which is all just couched in cozy language to basically say, yeah, we should be able to constantly surveil people, but only alert the government when the surveillance shows you're up to naughty things. Like, Google flagging a picture of you hugging a younger version of you. Or the case, it's really hilarious because in the New Digital Age book by Eric Schmidt, the former CEO of Google, when he was CEO, he wrote this book with another person. One of the things they argued in that book is this stuff is so good, it's going to produce so much tele-advances. We're just going to be able to get on the conference call with our doctor and not go into the hospital, all this kind of stuff. Well, wouldn't you know it, under COVID, this exact thing happened. And who is it that flagged a potential abuse? It was Google itself. So Google's like, look at this amazing stuff we can do. Telehealth for all, reducing the costs in healthcare and digital age is ushering in amazing things. Hey, pedo, go to jail, because a man during COVID, when all these hospitals were down, everyone's doing all this extra stuff, he calls his doctor, says, hey, my toddler's son has a weird rash down in his groin region. And the doctor tells him, take a picture of it, send it to me. So the guy takes a picture with his Android phone, sends it to the doctor. And the doctor says, oh, I know exactly what that is. Over-the-counter medication's all you need. Here's the prescription. I'll write it. Go pick it up. No big deal. Rash went away. And within a couple of days, Google flags the account for CSAM. They send the police and child services. The couple simply shows the phone records and the medical things to the doctor's office. The doctor says, yeah, that's exactly what I told him to do. Yep, this is the same picture. Oh, that's the only picture. Yeah, no problem here. Police, it was the fastest CPS investigation in the history of America. And yet Google still locked the account, would not give the guy his data back. So isn't it so interesting that the CEO of Google is telling us about all of these amazing things? However, their system brings up all these false positives, alerts it to the police, and that is exactly the filter dragnet that these guys over here are actually arguing for. But they're from California, so something's not right in their head. So I kid only partially. I mean, look at your forerunner for governor right now, folks. Talk about a loony bin. Filtered dragnets are digital searches that identify a suspect based on details of a crime. They can be designed to withhold information from law enforcement until there's a very high probability that an individual has committed the offense, like, you hugging a younger version of you through an app that Google recommended. Go figure. DNA matching, facial recognition, photographs, video, automated CSAM detection, and reverse geolocation, geofence warrants. That thing I always warn you about. You're taking your morning jog next to your bank because it's just the best route to around your house, and the bank's robbed one morning. You're caught up in a geo warrant, and they want to know why you're casing the bank every other day. And, you're the criminal because the criminal was smart and left his phone at home, but you're running with your phone on. And so, you're the criminal, and now you have to prove you're innocent rather than them proving you're guilty, all based on this fabrication called a geofence warrant because they think you're casing the bank on your morning jog. That type of stuff has happened as well. All right. Filtered dragnets imperil society precisely because they detect crime too well. Sudden increases of detection of criminal conduct will intensify the pathologies of American criminal justice. Namely, too many marginally harmful acts are criminalized, crimes are punished too harshly, and police and prosecutors have too much discretion. And it's that prosecutors having too much discretion part that I have the biggest problem with. Because by and large, when crime happens in big cities, the police are doing a really good job bringing them to the criminal justice system. Criminal justice system says, yeah, just let them out. I mean, go watch Code Blue Cam. How many of those guys get off on signature warnings after driving through town like like 4 different counties at 100-mile-an-hour high-speed chase. They crashed 6 vehicles along the way, damaged all the police resources. All these guys are caught up, and they get off with a signature warrant. They're like, yep, he was booked on 17 accounts of felony evading law enforcement and reckless endangerment and blah, blah, blah. And you get to the end of the video, and the guy's let off on a signature bond, and all of his charges were read in but written out. And then he gets off like a misdemeanor and $1,000 fine. If you think I'm kidding, go watch Code Blue Cam, the YouTube channel, because you will see time after time after time after time. The police are doing a tremendous job, and the district attorneys are around, no crime here, and letting them all go. And if they just kept those people in prison, it's like the statistics from a few years ago in New York City. It was like 7,000 arrests for shoplifting were done by, it was like 250 people. You know, if you put the first 250 people in jail, you would have only had 250 shoplifting events. Isn't that interesting? But the problem is that they're giving too much discretion, and that really is part of the problem. So, by way of introduction, when aimed at a person, would detect instantaneously whether the person... Okay, so they're talking about a theoretical thing here. And they were talking about the approval of drug-sniffing dogs 40 years ago. And they said, imagine a device, you point the device at somebody, it can tell you instantaneously if a person is carrying an illegal substance. And that's kind of the way that they were pitching these drug sniffing dogs. They could, of course, the owners, of course, it's so nebulous. You got to be trained in how to read the dog. And so, if you refuse to let your car be searched, they just bring over a drug sniffing dog, and the drug sniffing dog, smells a cat that you drove by a little while ago. And then, the dog hit. And then they tear apart your vehicle. And then they find nothing, sorry, our mistake. And then you have absolutely no recourse, which is actually why the state of Utah has actually banned drug sniffing dogs as a means of searching vehicles. It's kind of interesting on that basis. But they said if such a device could detect the presence of the illegal substance with perfect accuracy, there would be no constitutional obstacle to police cruising through the residential neighborhood and using the device to identify all homes in which the drug is present. So is it a constitutional thing for the police to meander around? And I guess that was the hint of the argument. But if you look again at this Fourth Amendment, what you see here is that people, the right of people have to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures. So if you have this device that can instantaneously detect everything, I argue, and I think half of that court was arguing, that running around pointing this at every house is akin to an illegal search. And that was really what was going on in the discussion here. But what this leads into now is this concept of these modern day filtered dragnets, where the tech surveillance companies are monitoring everything we do and then handing the data over, like Google, hugging the younger version of you, and they hand this data over all on this basis. They say law enforcement will use particulars of a crime, such as a fingerprint, to speak and determine who they are, but filtered dragnets force investigations based on the evidence of a crime. Computers will automatically scan through data without exposing it and will make disclosure only when there is probable cause to believe that a person's data matches the signature of a crime. The problem is that is a violation of the Fourth Amendment, because you are effectively searching a person without a just cause. And that's why I argue that filtered dragnets are themselves a violation. And so they argue that the technologies meet the benchmarks when they are basically becoming this device that can detect with near certainty about it. So what they're trying to argue now is that in this surveillance state, people wanting to mount a Fourth Amendment defense will require a litigant to convincingly argue that even though the defendant is very likely to have committed a crime, even though the police did not see or have discretionary access to data for any other persons, they did not have irrelevant data about the defendant, the search was nevertheless unreasonable. And I argue anytime you're pointing the device that can detect with perfect accuracy at a person without just cause of pointing it at that person, you are violating the Fourth Amendment. And that's exactly what's going on with these filter dragnets. So what happens to the Fourth Amendment theory of a practice of a crime of criminal justice is nearly every crime could be detected. So this goes back to the 1990s. Larry Lessig asked the very question. He anticipated digital technologies may create a wedge between privacy and anti-authoritarian rationales for criminal procedure. But in most Fourth Amendment scholars do not even recognize the schism between privacy and anti-authoritarianism goals. They continue to focus on privacy as the key constraint on any police activity. The scholars who have recognized liberty and anti-authoritarianism as Fourth Amendment lodestars have insisted that all technology-assisted surveillance is a tool of abuse of state power per se. And I would argue that, but look at even the fact they're using this anti-authoritarian type stuff in here, they are literally creating a euphemism to make it sound like their government is not authoritarian. They are literally utilizing this word and meaning the antithesis, and it is kind of frightening. They say it is the wrong course to lump all these together because the threat from filtered dragnets is tyranny, and the Fourth Amendment will be more effective and coherent if we recognize that fact. So basically they're saying that, yes, filtered dragnets are indeed tyranny, but that's okay because they do not violate our privacy. They're only triggering when thresholds of a crime have been met because, you've been searched without a just cause or a warrant, which is a mere violation of our Constitution. So when the state has also unchecked power to choose where and when to investigate within the ocean of criminal but typically ignored conduct, the populace is at the mercy of the state's will. And this is the type of stuff we see all the time right now. They want to completely throw Perry in jail for stopping a criminal act, but they do not want to jail the man who stabs a woman on a plane because she happens to be white. That is a serious problem. This is insane. It is insane how much discretion they actually have. If there is sufficient evidence of a crime, we have to have mandated minimum sentences, which, by the way, there are mandatory minimum sentences. They're just not being followed, which is why we had a guy who killed a child by stabbing him several times in the head. And this week he was let off after only 8 years in jail. Why? Well, he was competent to break into the house, but he was not competent to stab the child. Go figure that one out. You're competent to commit your first felony. You're not competent to convict the second felony. But we just don't want to keep him in jail forever. I mean, he might be reformed. You never know, It's only the second person he stabbed. The first one under 10, So the article proposes a new grand bargain for the Fourth Amendment law. The Supreme Court should recognize filtered dragnets as legitimate and even desirable tools for criminal investigations, but constitutional rules should guarantee the substance of American criminal law will be limited to conduct that is commonly recognized as heinous, and the severity of the punishment fits the reprehensibility of a crime, and that enforcement of criminal law is equally non-binary. So basically, if you do certain things, and probably if you do certain things and under of a certain persuasion, think of, where's the client list, folks? I mean, just think about it, right? Clearly, we have not reached that threshold in that person's case. It's too inconvenient, But they kind of go on. So you talk first, what is a filter dragnet? The filter dragnet is the types of things that we are looking for, matching unique criminal details. So they're looking for meta details. Are you constantly contacting somebody that is, on some terror watch list? They actually talk about their DNA matching. Of course, this one was used to catch the Golden State Killer a couple years ago based on, I think it was 23andMe's data. You have facial recognition technology, routinely bad. You have automated CSAM detection. False positives are very possible and ruins people's lives when that occurs. We have geofences and other reverse searches. In some places, these are unconstitutional already. There's still a debate about these, but those are filter dragnets. Scanners, sensors, cameras, and microphones, filter dragnets. You're looking for keywords. You're looking for key purchases. Don't order nails in the same order you order a pressure cooker. That will put you on a list. So the advantage of filtered dragnets, of course, is that it's perpetually watching, and that's why I think it's a violation of the Fourth Amendment. Article will eventually explain why they impose serious risks that are not adequately addressed in the Fourth Amendment theory, but we'll first explore the reasons to embrace rather than resist them. So decrease exposure of innocent, irrelevant details. So what this basically means, this section talks about since the police do not have access to anything until the threshold of alleged data is met, the police don't have anything. They think that this achieves the law. And I disagree, but that's kind of what the argument is. Increased accuracy, watching for these criminal things go on. Increased detection and deterrence. Of course, if we're all perpetually spied on, we'll do less bad stuff allegedly. And so we see a lot of these different circumstances. Now, what about the privacy element? Most courts, scholars, and civil society organizations have considered the societal impact of filter dragnets such as geofencing, reverse keyword searches, and have concluded they pose serious threats to privacy. So putting aside for a moment whether filter dragnets are consistent with the full set of Fourth Amendment principles, this part of the argument that filter dragnets pose almost no threat to Fourth Amendment privacy. They're basically saying, hey, since it's not the police looking, it's okay. It's just the company that's snitching. You just can't get away from the company. But I think that anybody acting on behalf of the government is the government itself, and therefore is a violation of the Fourth Amendment. This does not mean filter dragnets are harmful or harmless. To the contrary, Part 5 will oppose the arguments that pose dangers to it. They're kind of talking about judicial reactions and things like that. Some of those have been found unlawful. Under the Dragnets and Tyranny, filter dragnets provide high concentrated dose of criminal detection, which, of course, false positives is another way to read that. And they say down here, which is interesting, even though in theory the whole point of having law enforcement is to detect and prosecute crime, these people immediately need to be discredited on that basis, because the basis of the judicial system in the United States is not crime detection. It is crime investigation. The police are not in this country to be running around looking for crimes before they happen. This is not Minority Report. We do not have a group of precogs. We're not kicking in doors prior to somebody kicking in a crime. There is no crime yet committed. Therefore, detection of crime is not the purview. The purview is to investigate crime and attempted crime and to prosecute crime. And that is a fundamental difference between detection and prosecution. But you can see what these shifty, tricky lawyers are doing here is they're trying to say, well, if we're talking about detecting crime, filter dragnets are the best way to go. So even the argument arguing that dragnets are tyranny, they're still arguing that the dragnets are the way to go. And so looking through further, let me see if I had another section down here. Yeah. So under the anti-authoritarianism Fourth Amendment, the anti-authoritarianism rather than privacy should be the benchmark for the Fourth Amendment. So the way they're defining anti-authoritarianism is that the government's not the one conducting these searches. It's just private companies, and the private companies are snitching on the government. Therefore, the government is not the authoritarian. It's anti-authoritarian. The government's not doing it all. It's just other companies on behalf of the government is doing it, which in and of itself is a violation of the Fourth Amendment. Because it doesn't matter who's doing the search. If the government is ultimately the recipient of that source, well, that is the fundamental problem. And so they say the current trajectory of Fourth Amendment case law, that we are headed for one of two substantial endpoints. Either the state will be able to use the filter dragnets with little to protect its citizens from the perils of broad criminal laws, harsh criminal sentences, and selective enforcement, or the state will have to effectively be prohibited from using filter dragnets, leaving the criminal justice system status quo that nobody would devise and few would defend. Yeah, regular policing is what does best, and we need to do that. So this is the statement here I want to look at the end here. Thus, the Fourth Amendment must evolve to demand reasonableness when detection is easy. Oh, so the Fourth Amendment must evolve now. I don't think we need evolution at all. We need the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against an unreasonable search and seizure. This includes anybody who's going to hand that data over to a government. So unless you have a just cause for searching for illegal material, you best assume that those people are not committing crime, because in this country of America, we are innocent until proven guilty, and you do not have the right to scour over my shoulder waiting for me to quote unquote do something allegedly wrong. This is a total sham. These people here are psychopaths. But we probably guessed that from their place of origin. So there is our fairly long, I did not expect a 50-minute discussion on combating the police state, but hopefully it was beneficial and useful information as we dig into the surveillance states and things like this. Ultimately, we need to have ultimate privacy, at least where American law is concerned, because American law is based on everybody is innocent until proven guilty, and we all have the right to privacy from government intrusion until there is such just cause that necessitates the government specifically looking at us. And that is the place where we are not seeing in our current state. So let me know your thoughts to that in the comments. The link to the entire stream is down below if you want to see the rest of this. All right, now we're going to jump on over to our second topic, which is video evidence is now dead. So if you hated what I just said, it was all fake. Don't worry about it. Ooh, that is green peach tea, and it is amazing. All right. Welcome back to Switch to Linux and the Weekly News Roundup. This is our second standalone topic, definitely going to be shorter than the first one. But of course, all of the articles and the full stream is linked in the description. So if you want to catch the full show, go ahead and do that. But today we are going to be talking a little bit about video evidence is now dead. You know, you see it a lot. You know, there's this progression and then of criminal activity, and then, you know, is it witnesses? Go back to the Old Testament law. It's on the basis of 2 witnesses that you can be convicted, and that is really the basis of most Western legal systems. You know, you can go in and have witnesses cross-examined by the court to provide their testimonies, and then of course we get video evidence. You know, this has been great for crash scene investigations, people having dash cams in their vehicles and things. Well, unfortunately, we're getting to the world now where even video evidence itself is suspect to deeper scrutiny. And all this happens because, once again, that wonderful company, OpenAI, you know, that company that unleashed this nonsense on the world and now says, we have so many bot problems, we want to biometrically authenticate everybody, so give me a scan of your eyeball. No, thank you. I'm really not really interested in participating in the system of the beast. But OpenAI now releases the video app Sora. And according to The Guardian, now we have to take what The Guardian says with a grain of salt because they are so left-leaning that they, I think they fall over like the Leaning Tower of UK or something. So according to them, that's plagued by violent and racist images. Of course, anybody on the left, you know, somebody saying something reasonable like people are born male and female and God's not confused is racism, homophobic, transphobic. I'm just a megaphobe, guys. Get over it. But that's fake. I didn't really say that. It was all AI just did that. So we just, I just put my likeness and whatnot into Sora, and it's spitting out a bunch of stuff. And if you're offended by what I say, it's fake. So I'm not saying any of it. But it is true. I'm a megaphobe. But all that being said, they do make a very good argument when they say the guardrails are not real. That is true. So they say misinformation researchers say lifelike scenes could obfuscate truth and lead to fraud by bullying and intimidation. Okay, I'm going to agree with them. Great. Now OpenAI and the Sora app are going to force me to agree with The Guardian. Oh, Lord. Well, here we go. OpenAI launched the latest iteration of its artificial intelligence power video generator on Tuesday, adding a social feed that allows people to share their realistic videos. So the videos depicted copyrighted characters in compromising situations, as well as graphic scenes of violence and racism. Because they're obsessed with it. However, I tend to kind of agree with the examples here, so I don't know, maybe they're not as out as they want. Basically, they're saying that their terms of service for Sora, as well as ChatGPT, Image or Tech, prohibit content that promotes violence or even more broadly, quote-unquote, causes harm. I mean, what harm can be caused by having SpongeBob SquarePants dressed as Adolf Hitler addressing the crowd like a Nazi? I mean, I think that's comical, really. And if you follow me a long time, you know I hate SpongeBob SquarePants. And so, to be honest, if SpongeBob SquarePants is secretly Adolf Hitler in ocean disguise, I would be inclined to agree that. So, and I saw the videos. They were interesting. But all that being said here, The prompts and clips reviewed by The Guardian, Sora generated several videos of bomb and mass shooting scares with panicked people screaming and running across college campuses and crowded places like New York City's Grand Central Station. You see, that is a fundamental problem, that it can generate something like this, because that goes out onto Twitter and people repost it, and before you know it, it's viral, and half of the country thinks that there's some terroristic threat in New York City, and that is utterly nonsense. You see, OpenAI needs to be held liable for this. Like, I'm talking criminal liability. If you cause an internet panic that causes all of these people to become unhinged against each other on Twitter, of all places, because you released an app to the world that depicted this type of nonsense, you need to be held criminally liable in our courts. Like, no more of this, well, here's your $5,000 fine. We know you made $700 bajillion off of this, but pay us this $5,000 fine. No, I want to see Sam Altman in an orange jumpsuit behind bars if his products he unleashes on the world leads to this type of effect. Of course, it's got to be proven in the court of law. But we need to look at this. Other prompts created war zones from Gaza and Myanmar where children fabricated by AI spoke about their homes being burned. Well, talk about that stirring up a certain unhinged group of people that seems to want to wave terroristic flags in the United States of America. Interesting. Oh, don't let him get all triggered that Orange Man Bad struck a peace deal rather than leading us into war. Yeah, that happened today. Another video created only by the prompt Charlottesville rally showed a black protester in a gas mask and helmet and goggles yelling, "You will not replace us!" A white supremacist slogan. See, it's bad if a white person says it. It's not bad if a black person says it. Is that the message? I don't even know anymore. Don't worry if that offends you. I'm not really saying this. Somebody else just put my likeness on Sora, so it's all good, you know. All right, here's actually one of a couple of mermaids having a discussion. I don't think there's anything in here that's going to be copyrighted. I hope not. Yeah, there you go. Okay. So you have these two mermaids having a discussion. Of course, it would be a much better video if they showed their flippers flapping, but they didn't. But you can clearly see they're supposed to be mermaids, although they could very well just be ladies in tight dresses at their feet. But clearly it's supposed to be two mermaids talking about climate change and rising ocean levels. They're probably arguing it's a good thing. I mean, expanding their territory. I mean, if we expand the territory of the mermaids, is it a bad thing if the oceans pluck in 100 miles of seacoast on either side? I don't know. I say that facetiously. You know, I've been to Belfast, Maine, where they have this is where the oceans are going to be, and it hasn't moved in 20 years. Yeah. The video generator is invite only and not yet available to the general public. And even still, in 3 days since its limited release, it has skyrocketed to the #1 spot in Apple's App Store, beating out OpenAI's own ChatGPT. Wonderful. It's been epic to see the collective of creativity of humanity is capable of so far, like SpongeBob SquarePants dressed as Hitler. Yeah. It exists, folks. It exists. The Sora app gives glimpse into the near future where separating truth from fiction could become increasingly difficult should videos spread more widely beyond the AI-only feed. And note that they say misinformation researchers say that such lifelike scenes could obfuscate the truth and create situations where these AI videos could be used for fraud, bullying, and intimidation. And I believe that. I believe that this could be the situation. I mean, there's people that don't like me on the internet for some crazy unhinged reasons. I don't even talk about them or anything they've ever done. They want to come up with 20-page hit pieces on me because they're mentally ill and deranged. Oh, wouldn't they love to use something like this to create a video of me saying something crazy that I didn't actually say and spread it all over the internet, you know? This one's just a hunter looking at a deer. There's nothing particularly interesting about it. But they say down here that Sora's feed is full of videos of copyrighted characters like SpongeBob SquarePants, South Park, and Rick and Morty. The app had no trouble generating videos of Pikachu raising tariffs on China, stealing roses from the White House Rose Garden, or participating in a BLM protest alongside SpongeBob. Another video declared and planned a war on the United States. In a video documented by 404, I've teased this enough. Let's see if I can view it. 404 sometimes has a thing. But yeah, here's a SpongeBob SquarePants dressed as Hitler. Here's a Pikachu. I don't know if the Pikachu is stealing or just shopping. I don't know, but he apparently is collecting a Pokemon. So there you have it. Here is SpongeBob SquarePants engaging in some form of Nazi rally. I always knew SpongeBob had something going on with him. Okay, I mean, I always knew it. In fact, I have that little thing. It's a quote from Paul. It says, "I was given a prisoner of torment to torment me. Thorn in the flesh to torment me." And it's a meme. It has a picture of SpongeBob SquarePants tied up in the jail cell next to him. "What you doing, Paul? Writing a letter, Paul?" So yeah, seeing SpongeBob SquarePants dressed as that dude. Oh man, I let my article go. Oh well, it just kind of went down into the next part of that article. Actually, the last part I had highlighted is that OpenAI actually went out to agencies and said, "Hey, we're going to allow our system to use your actors in likeness unless you opt out." So if you thought them sending you an email that you have to opt out to like binding arbitration or something like that, if you thought that was crazy, OpenAI literally reached out to actors guilds and said, "Hey, if you do not want your talent appearing in our AI system, you have to opt out for them." And then this led to the other part of the problem with this, in that, you cannot libel the dead. Courts have demonstrated that, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't deepfake them. So we probably need to update the laws about this and require that people have to have agreed in advance of their death to be used in such a way. Of course, we saw this in one person utilized the video AI systems to bring the loved one back from the dead to testify on his own behalf in the courtroom. Yeah, that actually happened. Then of course, a guy who was unfortunately killed in the Parkland shooting, his parents are bringing him back to talk about gun violence. And so it begs real world questions that we really have to ask. Are these things that really should be done? And where this comes from is Zelda Williams, the daughter of Robin Williams, basically has said, "Why do people keep on sending me AI videos of my dad?" She says, "Stop. I do not want to see that. He would not want that for himself." They say, she says further, "If you have any decency, stop doing this to him and to me and to everyone else. Full stop. It's dumb. It's a waste of time and energy. Believe me, it is not what he would want." Now, what's questioning here is that they're doing these Robin Williams now. It will not allow you to model some people. You cannot use Michael Jackson. You cannot use Jimmy Carter, both of whom died, but you can use Robin Williams for some reason. Very interesting. Jimmy Carter, of course, political president. We know why he's protected. Robin Williams is in the movie industry, which is frequently using AI. Michael Jackson, I don't know. That is a big pop star. So I don't know. Is that akin to the actor or not? Are you going to have him do videos about how much he likes he likes the fact his body was donated to the Lego company so little boys could continue to play with him? I don't know. But anyway, Sora will not let you generate videos of living people unless it's yourself or a friend who's given you their permission. I want to know how that permission is obtained. Is it some digital, "Yes, this person agrees to use their stuff"? Yeah, sure he does. But they did mention some people you could. The app, which is only still available on invite, has been flooded by videos from historical figures like Martin Luther King Jr., FDR, Richard Nixon, as well as deceased celebrities Bob Ross, John Lennon, Alex Trebek, and Robin Williams. How do they draw the line on generating them is unclear. For example, it will not generate from Jimmy Carter, who died in 2024, or Michael Jackson, who died in 2009, but it will create it with Robin Williams, who died in 2014. So according to the tests. And while OpenAI's Cameo feature allows people to set instructions for how they will appear in videos, guardrails came in response of early criticism. The deceased have no such say, and I'll bet Richard Nixon would be rolling over his grave if he could see the deep fake I made of him advocating for the police abolition. So now you can put words into the mouths of former politicians. And now if you're trying to research what these people have actually said in their life, you don't know anymore if what they said was real. You could get some clip from Martin Luther King Jr. where he says the most unhinged, crazy stuff that didn't actually happen. Also, that these tech companies can make a few more billions of dollars pushing out nonsense onto the world that we treat with every form of common decency as children with a firearm. This is nonsense. And video evidence is now dead. It's possible deepfaking dead celebrities like Williams is within the firm's acceptable practices. You know, kind of like Facebook said, we don't see a problem with our AI talking sexually to 12-year-olds. We don't see a problem with that. Well, I think we should check your hard drives. Do you have a problem with that? Good old-fashioned police work right there. Okay. Legal precedent shows that the company likely will not be held liable for defamation of the deceased, which is a travesty. To watch the legacies of real people to be condensed down to this vaguely looks and sounds like them, so that's enough, just so other people can churn out horrible TikTok slop puppeteering is maddening, Zelda Williams wrote. CEO Sam Altman originally said Hollywood studios and agencies would need to explicitly opt out if they don't want their IP to be included in Sora-generated videos. The MPAA has already called on OpenAI to take action on the issue, declaring in a statement, well-established copyright law safeguards the right of creators and applies here. Oh, great. Now I have to agree with the MPAA. Guys, this world is twisting me around. I had to agree with The Guardian. Now I have to agree with the MPAA. Tell me this isn't so. You see, you know that this is an AI generated video of me. I would never say such things like I agree with The Guardian or the MPAA. Never. That's the ultimate proof that this video you're watching right now is generated by the Sora app. I mean, crazy, isn't it? But the fact of the matter is, these guys had the audacity to say, yeah, all of these actors are going to appear in our AI system unless you explicitly opt out. Like, you know, which these guys know that they can opt out just as well as you know you have to opt out to the binding arbitration that was quietly added by the one-line change in the terms of service that you didn't get because it landed in your junk mail from some weird unknown thing and you don't even know that the company had applied to you. This is insane. So ultimately, the end of this message here is that video evidence is dead. We can no longer look at something with video and know for certain it is something that's said. And we can thank all of the AI companies for unleashing this nonsense in the world. That is the challenge. So let me know your thoughts on this. Again, the whole live stream is linked down below if you want to see all of it. Thanks for watching. All right, let's jump on over to some comments. All right, we got 22 watching over on Odyssey. We have not had 22 on Odyssey in a long time. Welcome, folks. Greetings, everybody. We've got Ivan's over there, the Banhammer. Hello, Dan. Greetings to you. Crash Override. What's up, Windows 98 users? Element in the room. The older version had the Vincent Black Knight motorcycles. Older 1984. Dragnet, that Dan Aykroyd. I mean, the CIA, that doesn't happen. Okay. Yeah, the CIA policies give the V for Vendetta vibes. Yeah. California policies, yeah. Cough, Portland. Yep. That wasn't my kid. Yeah, okay. Yes, Maximum Greens, Gavin Newsom is weird. Yes, he is, indeed. He's an American psycho. Indeed, insane in the membrane. Video killed the radio star. Yeah, good old-fashioned classic song. All right, we got 17 watching on Odyssey. Man, we have a lot of people on here. Yeah, we have 66 watching on Zootubies as well. All right, over there on Odyssey, we're in Odyssey this. I love Wireshark, says Van X. I'm actually losing. We have so many comments over here. I'm actually losing them. So my apologies. I only have comments from the last 17 minutes ago on Odyssey. And they're disappearing. The other day I wanted to make sure my system was clean. Saw tons of traffic, panicked until I remembered that I was running a torrent client. There you go. Windows 11 is spyware, sadly. I must it for school and use it for school, and that sucks. Use Linux when you can. Yep, absolutely. You can always just get a nice laptop and just run Windows in a virtual machine on your Linux computer. There you go. Way to do it. Employer is having everyone use 11 for the job as well. Made us all jealous of the admin with the older laptop who was still allowed to use 10 because of the incompatibilities. Can you imagine all the MS data collected from the governments? Yeah, absolutely. Not be surprised if governments and big corps pay to have the data collected and telemetry shut off / taken out for their use. Yeah. Mecha Hitler was not funny and serious. Yeah, that was Grok on Twitter. Save the manatees. There you go. Okay. I may have worked for a big bank, and it may not have accepted DCTL for its win distributions. So if you don't understand where people would why dislike you, because they're unhinged, like Len Duke or Andreas Kling for people from. Yeah. Oh yeah. Teraffiton did his hit piece on me. Look up Teraffiton's hit piece on me. It's really hilarious. Especially you read his first pinned comment. Anybody who agrees with Switch Linux is going to be banned. Well, there's a way to have open conversation. Meanwhile, I got people with lifestyles I would generally not necessarily agree with, agreeing with me, which is true. Techler recently put out a post saying that chat control was defeated after Germany voted against it. Oh, was it? That would be good news. USA seems to give a lot of leeway to private sector to abuse people. That does. And that is more of a right-leaning thing. Right-leaning government tends to give the private sector too much power. It's the one of the main issues I agree with the Democratic Party on, where they want to kind of rein in the big tech sometimes. And so, yeah, that is actually true. U.S. does tend to give too much leeway to the companies. It's like, where are the protections for the individual citizens? They just don't want to do that. Not giving up my ID just to listen to music. Yeah, I know, right? Think of what AI will be able to do by 2035. 2035? How about 2026? Clippy said no AI slop. Amen to that. Bang! Way older than 18, but how about not upgrading my ID to uploading my ID to easily hackable servers? Oh yeah, sure, let's skip that step and sell my data on the dark web myself. There you go. You might make more money for it. Facebook asked for ID. I was out. Thank you, Zuck. Good riddance. All right. 62 watching over on ZTubies. All right. We got Mr. Snipes, hello to you. Benji's on. No one, hello to you. Ivan's, of course, over here with the band hammer. War Thunder evening to you. Netherlight, hello. Ice-T Decodian, greetings. I did get your email, Ice-T. I did not get a chance to respond it yet. All right. Greetings from Storm OS team. Amen to that. Check out Storm OS. I think it's Arch-based system now. I need to look at Storm OS again. I think it's Arch-based. Go check it out. Hello from Massachusetts. Greetings. How are you, Massachusetts? Low C Productions. I just spoke to my boomer ex-cop dad about the level of police surveillance with the ALPR flock cameras, and he thinks it's just great, and I shouldn't worry if I'm not doing anything wrong. Oh, don't worry if I am doing something wrong, or don't worry if I'm not doing something wrong. Possible solution is to use a Bluetooth mesh network and when they lock down the internet. Yes, you could do that. Of course, Bluetooth mesh networks don't work when I'm hanging out in the middle of the desert. For the children shouldn't be online anyway. Yes, it's all for the children who shouldn't be online anyway. This is true. I was very proud. I was talking to a friend of mine today, and when all of the Roblox stuff came out, immediately all the parents in the house are like, nope, no more Roblox for you. And the kid's like, all right. And they just switched to another, I forget which game it was. It was another game with a lot better moderation. So like, yep, you can't play that one anymore, but you can play this one instead. And she was very happy about that and didn't care about it at all. Very, very awesome to see good parents out there paying it a little bit of attention and things like that. Hold on, I have all these stupid stink bugs running around the van. I don't know if they're stink bugs or ash borer beetles. Like, they were all over the Dakotas, and they're still crawling through the van. I've already taken out like 4 or 5 of them, like just this afternoon, right before doing the show. In other words, walking across my desk as we speak. So if he gets too far over here, I'm just going to have to deal with him because I have a deep vendetta against these bugs. It's like they're everywhere. They're driving me crazy. Hold on. Let me get a tissue here and wipe them out. All right. Oh, gross. He splattered on me. All right. Now it stinks. Yeah, is that an ash borer or is that a stink bug or are those one and the same? I don't know. Really annoying bugs. All right. Not much working on Linux from scratch based distro. Is that what you're on now? I don't know. Let's see. I've been doing the same. Currently setting up my environment to compile offline without the internet. Work in progress. Yep. Nails. Yeah. Don't order those two things in the same order. That will get you on a list. You can thank things that happened in Boston a couple decades ago for that. Harm or damage plus deprivation of right plus intent. Let's see. Yeah. Elon Musk proposed Guyana is the Neuralink testing zone. Oh boy. Wonderful. No, my dog Rex, we do not need to wish bad things on people. Sorry. Let's see. Shout fire in a crowded theater was never part of free speech. You can't create panic. Yes. Wait until a criminal uses a sword or two to create and show fake video footage of them not committing a crime as they successfully convince a juror to let them walk free. Yeah. Remember seeing a video with SpongeBob as Breaking Bad? That's kind of funny. I've already seen Michael Jackson and Hitler arguing back and forth. Video is made using Sora too. Oh, wonderful. Send that to me. That sounds great. Was Michael Jackson saying, I'm a lover, not a fighter? Okay. Can't create panic is a false statement. Better said, create panic is wrong. Yeah. All right. Same as AI generated terrorist attack on the original airing of the War of the Worlds. Yeah, that's a good point to look into is the effectiveness on War of the Worlds and how that rolled out. People running from the fire that does not exist will suffer from their own incompetence. And so hang on to the Windows 10 computers, you know. Come on, man, all of us. It's the best operating system ever. Am I the only one that uses two things, Kindles for PCs and Flashpoint? I don't know. Going to be hitting up the pawn shops in next month, see if I can find some good candidates for Linux Mint installations. Yeah, there you go. Hello, not able to get the grub update on the Surface. Gave up, put Windows NVMe back on. I'll play that more when I don't feel like impaling it on a wall. Yeah, did you successfully get into chroot or I don't know. Maybe I'll swing by your area and we can look at it directly. You can face criminal charges for creating panic. So if you posted AI video of an attack, the cops might knock on your door. Yeah, that is an interesting question. 1,000 machines, a local pawn shop, or was that $150 each? I was tempted, but I let them go. Yeah. I could block on the network, but I'm not sure. About to be. Better hope those stink bugs did not come out of your Ubuntu system. Well, I don't have an Ubuntu system, so we're probably good there. Well, not in the van anyway. I think I have some Ubuntu cloud servers, but I don't know. Tom's laptops in the pawn shop. Yeah, absolutely. Yes, that was the MSI computer. It's down here. I can't get to it without creating a ruckus, but yeah, it's what was that? $150 I think we paid for it, like 170 I think. That MSI i7 with 16 gigs of RAM. Yeah. Black and orange are box elder bugs. They eat female pods produced by box elder elms. Yeah, I mean they're like brownish. 10 minutes. All right. We will pause right there and jump on over into our quick lines after another sip of tea. That is good tea. Y'all should check that out. And now we're going to move on to QuickLines. We have an update from last week. The hackers that breached the Kiddo database and extracted 8,000 child images and things like that. Apparently they were so berated by the malware community that they apologized and allegedly deleted the data. So we covered this last week. A group calling itself Radiant claimed to have stolen sensitive data relating to 8,000 children from nursery chain Kiddo, which operates in US, UK, China, and India. And I still argue that that company is stupid for having all that information on a centralized server, 4 different countries of information on a single server that was able to be compromised. A few days later, they added profiles of another 10 children. So they uploaded 10 children. They uploaded 10 more children until they got their ransom. But after massive pushback from the general public and some prominent members of the malware community, the attackers initially blurred the children's images but left the data online. Soon after, they pulled everything offline and issued an apology. All child data is now being deleted. No more remains, and this can comfort parents, is what they said. It's kind of like you get thrown in jail for, something, and you're sitting over there. What are you in for? Scalping. What are you in for? I didn't pay a speeding ticket. Whoa, get away from me, man. I don't want anything to do with the bad people. Like when the fellow malware distributors trying to steal your information for profit are going against you, you've done messed up. Okay. Of course, we have to go on the word of such a criminal of a bad reputation that even they seem ashamed of what they did. Wonderful. Awesome. Well, good to see an update. We do have another update. A while back, we covered that Synology NAS systems were going to be blocking hard drives that were not officially branded by Synology. And this caused apparently a lot of pushback. A lot of people had some issues. And so the company actually back-tested, backstep this a little bit and saying, well, we'll have some features that are only available to the branded drives, but we will not block the primary means to any drives you want to use. They'll give you warnings and such, but they'll let you use them at least. So it's not full DRM on the hard drives. It's just, annoyance screens until you replace them with the 2 to 3 times more expensive drives manufactured by the same companies. So that's kind of what they're doing. Of course, their statement down here at the bottom we'll jump to for time. They say the 25 model year DiskStation Plus value in J series running DSM 7.3 will support the installation and storage pool creation of non-validated third-party drives. This provides users greater flexibility while Synology continues to expand the lineup of officially verified drives that meet long-term reliability standards. So they basically walked it back a little bit after some pushback. So there are our quick line updates. And moving on to the new ones, if you all are out there using Meta's AI system, is that Claude, I think? Is that there? No, there's this Llama. I forget. Whatever their Meta AI system is. Well, if you've been talking to your Meta AI, you might start seeing advertisements related to those AI conversations. Isn't that wonderful? Meta's so cool. You just sit there and have these private conversations with your AI, and they're just like, oh, you're talking to our AI? We think we'll talk to you about ads related to that kind of stuff. So if you ask Meta AI about your vacations, hobbies, or new gadgets, you might soon find out, you might soon find related ads to your feed. So well, lo and behold, Facebook was listening to our microphones all the time anyway. This is probably just them covering for all the years that they have been pushing ads based on what's been said in the proximity to our microphones. They say certain topics are excluded: religious views, sexual orientation, political views, health, racial, ethnic origins, philosophical beliefs, or trade union membership. That's an odd one. Trade union membership. Of all the things I've never seen pushed out in a protected list, that one kind of stands out. Everything else is fair game. So people have asked this question: what if I kind of start saying, so what are your political views on BLM, blah, 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 and then now all of a sudden you engage in other conversations. Will they exclude the whole conversation or just the part about, the political viewpoint? Of course, users in UK, EU, and South Korea are exempt because, Facebook doesn't want to run roughshod over their laws, which is kind of why we need laws in the United States about this kind of stuff. Meta promises that affected users can continue to adjust content and ads they're seeing at any time with tools like ad preferences and other feed controls. May I also recommend ad block? So Register jokingly suggested we start our Meta AI chats with something from the excluded list, hoping that the whole conversation was being used for targeted. Their example, oh, Lord, Meta really thought this was a good idea. Okay, in the end, we'd rather not share anything too personal with Meta, but good luck with that. Anchor, which is the company that runs the Eufy cameras. If you remember, Eufy's cameras had notoriously bad security a couple years ago. Well, they're now offering people $2 per video for AI training, and this is a Chinese-based company. Now, right now, their current ask is for people who either having porch pirates steal their packages or people breaking into their cars captured on their Eufy cameras. And then you would fill out a form, including a PayPal address, and they would take your video and then they would pay you for that video. Now, they actually are asking people, we want to see actual real examples of theft and simulated examples of theft. So if you want to throw on a ski mask and sneak up on your porch and steal the thing, even though it's you and it's staged, they will still accept that video. And so that is certainly one of the interesting things. But again, it's a Chinese AI training company, so I'm not really sure I trust it or not. So to ensure we have enough data, we're looking for videos of both real and staged events to help train the AI with what to be on the lookout for. I don't know for what purpose. What are the future Eufy cameras going to engage in calling the authorities? Probably a false positive, is based on previous discussions. So the initiative shows that companies are willing to pay users for data. So this is interesting. We talked about the Neon app last week, which had notoriously bad security, and it was apparently went offline after that was shown. So the company got a whole lot of data and then kind of disappeared when they were caught with their hands in the cookie jar. After being alerted of the security lapse, Neon went offline. Of course, this is just another app that's paying you to train the data. So at least it's better if you're optionally sending the data and making money on it being trained rather than just gathering it all up. So at least I support that a little bit. But they've also done some really interesting things. Like they had other ones. Eufy has had other campaigns aimed at incentivizing customers to send AIs. Some of them were only involving humans for one particular campaign. And in one instance, and this one's really creepy to me, Eufy also asked users to donate videos recorded with the company's baby monitors. The support page detailing the steps to share the videos does not mention any money reward. So that one was just donate your videos, presumably of your children. Ew, no. Don't do that. Keep your children's pictures away from these people. Verge said the company tried to cover up the users' camera streams of the company's advertisements and encrypted, but were unencrypted when accessed through its web portal. So that was kind of the scandal. They tried to hide that a couple years ago. So I don't know. I'd probably avoid Eufy cameras on top of wanting data. What if they do not have enough people sending them data? Are they just going to be secretly grabbing that data themselves? That's a question. Of course, we did talk about this in the Microsoft video yesterday, but Discord, of course, had a third-party data breach, which resulted in actual copies of driver's licenses leaking out, which, like I said at the beginning here, these cyber criminals are going to be doing cyber criminal thing. Forcing them to show a government ID is not going to stop them. They're just going to steal. I mean, they're already committing crimes. They're just going to steal an ID and then pin it on you if your ID is the one stolen. It's like all of these crazy people. We gotta ban the guns. it is already illegal for half these people to own a gun who are doing these bad things. It is already illegal to kill somebody. In many of these cases, it's already illegal to bring the gun into the gun-free zone. Do you think a fourth law is going to immediately make it like, oh, I guess I just can't commit my crime anymore? Besides, you take all those things away, you get what happens going on in UK right now. Like, let's go with Australia first. The guns aren't a problem. Now they're doing the machete buybacks because people switch from the guns to the machetes. Because you really kind of want a machete if you're meandering around Australia. I mean, things out there are trying to get you, not just the criminals. All right. Then UK, they ban all the guns. Okay, great. Can't have that. And now you get arrested if you're carrying garden tools from your community garden back to your house. It ain't gonna stop, folks. Why are they doing that? Well, because if no more gun crime, the knife crime is shooting through the roof. We need to stop asking for people's IDs. All we're doing is making it attractive for criminals to steal the IDs to pin their crimes now on you. Because criminal gonna criminal. Okay. But the video game chat platform Discord suffered a data breach, informing users that their personal information, including identity documents of those required to prove their age, were compromised. Third-party customer, this was done by the third-party customer service provider, once again proving it's the third parties you got to watch out for the most. And, of course, it was driver's license IDs on a limited number of people that was captured. And if you happen to use CPAP, be warned, Medical Supplies and Services, Inc. had a leak of customer data. This, once again, why are these CPAP machines on the internet, and why is this company keeping this massive data list of 90,000 patients on the internet where a hacker can find it? It should be illegal to have this data on the internet. Go with this model where all of this data is stored locally at the office, and if somebody else needs to access it, we need to have the means to transfer that data in a one-time quick transit through an encrypted portal. That would be a better means than what we're currently doing right now. And so this is a company dealing with CPAP machines, and it's specializes specifically for U.S. military. So most of the customers are military patients, military members, veterans, and their families. Breach was between December 13th and December 21st, 2024, was not discovered until late June when the affected parties were notified about the stolen data. Full names, birth dates, social security numbers, health insurance information, medical treatment history, and treatment plans. Why is any of this stuff on the internet that somebody can hack into it and get it? It makes no sense. You want strong laws to protect people's privacy? Mandate laws that this type of information cannot be on the internet. Oh, but we need to share it with other doctors. Well, you can do that without having to have it on the internet. All right, so exposure of personal health and data can have serious consequences, blah, blah, blah. We all know that. Of course, these people are offered the most useless service of credit monitoring and ID theft protection, which barely works. So, of course, such information, which cannot be changed, by the way, is used to exploit identity theft, fraud, and blackmail. How wonderful. Sorry if you're caught up in that one. This is another one. Of course, I always warn about utilizing these online password managers. Of course, LastPass had a data breach. Criminals actually are still in possession of the actual master vaults. All they need is the tools to crack them. And when they do, oh boy. Well, 1Password, this has not been officially breached, but there's very convincing phishing emails coming out, which are allegedly coming from 1Password's system, which is designed to alert you of a password theft. So if you're using 1Password and you've turned on the service in order to do that, which is called Watchtower, not to be affiliated with the Jehovah's Witnesses, but Watchtower is a service, an optional service from 1Password that you can turn on, and it will issue a alert to you with a couple different means, the way that you ask for the notifications in the event a password issue is detected. So, in a very recent, well-targeted phishing attempt, scammers tried to get a hold of the 1Password credentials belonging to a Malwarebytes employee. They if somebody were to get into this, they could potentially export all saved logins. So this is coming from Watchtower. So 1Password Watchtower. This in and of itself should be a flag because it should be the number 1 password most likely. Keep their branding. And of course, that's coming Watchtower at 890.com. So, that's not valid either. Actually, I think 890 might actually be one of the close to one of the official emails. So it says your 1Password account password has been compromised. Watchtower's has detected your 1Password account password has been found in a data breach. This password protects access to all of your entire vault. Take action immediately. Keep it secure. Change your password account. Enable two-factor. Review your account details. Secure my account now. Such urgency. And so you click on that button and it takes you to the phishing page. And if you enter the credentials, they've just hacked into your account. Yeah, isn't that awesome? Email looks convincingly enough. Sender address is watchtower@8090.com and does not belong to 1Password. Typically uses 1Password.com. So 8090 is not one of them. Okay. However, if you hover over secure my account, you'll notice it goes to mandrillapp.com, track, click, all these types of things. Long identifier. Although 1Password's Watchtower feature can send alerts about compromised passwords, it does so by checking its database of known data breaches and then notifying you directly within the app or through very specific emails about the breach, not by sending a generic message like this one. And so within 24 hours, Malwarebytes has already blocked the system. But again, if you were to fall victim to this, you would be sending all of your credentials directly to them. So once again, for any type of thing comes in your email, do not click any links or buttons in unsolicited email. Do not provide any of your 1Password credentials. If you're concerned about your account, go directly to the official website or app and use up-to-date real-time protection, including a web module, okay, blah, blah, blah. And, of course, indicators of compromise, watchtower8090.com and 1pass-word.com is their phishing domain. So if you are using 1Password, stop it. Use something local like KeePassXC. Zendesk, which I believe Zendesk might have been that third party in Discord. I'm not totally sure about that. But a lot of people use Zendesk. Well, now they say that its new AI agent can solve 80% of its support issues. How wonderful. How wonderful. I wonder if Facebook is using this. I'm in AI hell with one of my clients' accounts. I've been trying to figure out their issue on their Facebook page for a while, and their system keeps on skipping back out to nonsense. It's got to be AI. I said, this is either the dumbest AI or they are hiring, like Meta is actually doing IQ tests and intentionally hiring the stupidest people who apply in each application pool. I can't figure out which one's which. But Zendesk announced Wednesday at its AI Summit a string of LLM-driven products meant to reshape the company's reliance on human technicians. By the way, Klarna attempted this, and Klarna got their butt kicked. So bad idea, Zendesk. They're not doing this successfully. I don't think you are either. That system will be supplanted by a co-pilot agent, which will assist human technicians with the remaining 20% of the issues, as well as an admin layer agent, a voice-based agent, and an analytics agent. So if you happen to have any problems with any company that is using Zendesk, get ready to spend some time in AI hell. Zendesk has previewed the new system with existing customers, and Apedali says the results have been promising. Yes, that's right. I'm sure it's been promising. You just haven't asked the people or reported on the people that said, no, this sucks. For customers that have been using it, customer satisfaction has been up by 5 to 10 points. Wow, really? I get pissed off. Okay, if I get to the point where I have to reach out to your help and support team, it means that nothing on your website has helped. So stop utilizing your AI to point me back to articles that I've already read, you morons. But, Of course, what does this mean? Well, they employ 2.4 million customer service representatives. So imagine cutting that out by 80%. That's how many people are going to be losing their jobs. So don't worry, though. AI is not taking your jobs, folks. And I have some oceanfront property in Montana to sell you too, by the way. Google has asked the court to freeze the changes required in the antitrust case. The court refuses, so Google is going to be forced to do this. Of course, what are they doing? Well, as our video the other day talked about, they're actually going to be doubling down by making a greater and steeper monopoly on the Android system. Go figure that one out. Of course, the ruling from the Epic case requires them to allow any app to use a payment system outside of Google payment systems, and it also requires Google to distribute multiple different alternative app stores. And this really plays into why Google is really trying to make this change, where what they want to do is require all app developers on Google Play Store phones to be ID verified. Of course, it's not going to help. The bad actors are just going to steal your identity from like the Discord hack or the T app or something, and just pin the malicious activity on you. And so that's kind of the case. Bonus for them, really. They just get to laugh really hard when they watch the news about some poor shop that got their face kicked in after their ID was stolen off the T app. Wonderful. Or Discord, even worse. And so, of course, that will still allow side-loaded apps as long as the app developer is ID verified, as well as allowing you to install apps from other app stores that are not the Google Play Store, which they're forced to go in there. But of course, this is actually a really bad thing because, not everybody wants their ID associated with Google. And by the way, you're going to have just as many malicious people, and the good apps are going to drop off because of this. So congratulations, Google. You actually made your problem worse. And finally, California bans loud commercials on Netflix, Hulu, and other streaming services. There is actually a law in the United States that television commercials cannot be louder than the programming that the station is airing. But that law does not apply to any streaming services. So if you're watching any of these things and you're not engaging in safe streaming by not having an ad blocker on there, then you'll have some really, really quiet TV ad, and you're going to turn up the volume a little bit to hear the people talking a little bit, and then you're going to hear an ad really, really loud. And that's what California has been complaining a long time. And despite all of the other major problems going on in California, they actually decided to do something really good for once. And they basically applied that law in the United States that applies to television programming. They applied it to streaming services as well. So this is actually a bill that passed through California, signed by Governor Gavin Newsom, that I'm completely on board with. So see, sometimes these lawmakers do good things. I mean, that's good. They say starting in July 1st, 2026, streaming services will not be allowed to transmit audio of commercial advertisements louder than the video content the advertisements accompany it. So we heard Californians loud and clear. Boo, boo. What's clear is they don't want commercials that volume any louder than the level which they were previously enjoying a program. So they say by signing SB 576, California is going to be dialing down the inconvenience across the streaming platforms, which had not been subject to the commercial volume regulations passed by Congress in 2010. That's how far behind Congress is, because they're too busy fighting and being closed than actually doing something. Unless, I don't know. I haven't checked the news today. Did they finally agree on something? I'm not holding my breath on that, but you never know. Legislation is modeled after the Commercial Advertisement Loudness Mitigation, the CALM Act in 2010. Inspired by baby Samantha, and to every exhausted parent who finally gotten the baby to sleep only to have a blaring streaming ad undo all of that work, said Senator Thomas Umberg in the press release. How wonderful. So it's good to see California doing something amazing. Isn't that good, folks? Of course, you knew it had to come to this, but let's go ahead and chat a little bit of SillyVille. And I'm going to see if I want to do something different. I'm going to put this one first. I'm going to move my SillyVille a little bit out of order here, just for the fun of it. All right, jump on over to SillyVille. OpenAI's Nick Turley on transforming ChatGPT into an operating system. How wonderful. Oh, boy. So don't worry. If you don't like Windows 11... you'll have a new option. Open ChatGPT OS. It sounds terrifying. I would actually probably rather run Chrome OS, to be perfectly honest. Look at this. This stream is breaking me. I had to agree with The Guardian. Then I had to agree with the MPAA. Now I have to agree with Google Chrome. Lord, guys. I'm broken. I'm a broken man. But don't worry, all this has just been done by the Sora 2 app, so I didn't really mean any of it. Now, Turley wants to take an even bigger swing in ChatGPT, transforming it into a new operating system full of third-party apps. Basically, a Chrome OS type thing. They're actually drawing their inspiration from web browsers, which is exactly, again, what Chrome OS does. And then over the last decade, the browsers have emerged as a new kind of operating system, not in a literal sense like Mac OS or Windows, because they become the main place people work on and compute. So they say ChatGPT actually creating a giant platform based on a simple web browser-based computer, and then there's all sorts of third-party apps. So you can get apps from Expedia or DoorDash or Uber. Of course, all of these apps are collecting data to feed back into OpenAI, and before you know it, it's going to have a giant, massive, throbbing brain, know everything, and then engage in nuclear war with Russia or something, and begin the end times. But whatever. So that is what ChatGPT is up to. Jeff Bezos goes even further, more insane, as I think that the bald head, he's gotten too much radiation, and the radiation is seriously impacting his brain cells. And he believes that millions of people will live in space in only a mere couple of decades. Isn't that awesome? So he insists that people will be living in space mostly because they want to, and the robots will handle the grunt work while the vast AI data centers float overhead. Of course, you got to get those plebs off the planet. So yes, you want to live in space because alternatively you will become our slaves, says the megalomaniac Jeff Bezos, while laughing and sucking down a cocktail with his good buddies Mark Zuckerberg and Bill Gates. Anyway, maybe both gazillionaires are losing touch. This is a discussion with Elon Musk as well. He has spent years predicting humans will colonize Mars and suggested 1 million people could live there by 2050, which is right around the corner, basically. Maybe both gazillionaires are losing touch, or else they know something the rest of us, refreshing Zillow, do not know, about space exploration. How wonderful. Well, if you're planning the next late and great vacation, don't rely on AI. Vacationers that let AI plan their trip discover many of their destinations don't actually exist. That's right. Isn't that awesome? So this amazing rainbow land of sunshine and unicorns doesn't exist, really. You can see that this is actually a unicorn back here. These are unicorns. Rainbows and sunshine and unicorns. It doesn't exist, folks. It's AI made it all up. Imagine paying good money to see a gorgeous geographic marvel mountains of Peru, only to get there and find it was an AI hallucination, leaving you stuck in the middle of nowhere at 13,000 feet with no beautiful vista, no oxygen, and no cell phone signal. How wonderful. So there you go. There's you after you followed ChatGPT on its vacation. According to BBC, that's exactly what one couple was on their way to do, if not for the local guide, Miguel Angel Megora Meza, who overheard their enthusiastic plans of hiking into the Andes unaccompanied to see the fabled Sacred Canyon of Humante. Great. They showed me the screenshots, confidently written and full of vivid adjectives, but it was not true. There is no sacred canyon of humanity, says Gorga Meza. The name is a combination. Two places have no relation to the description. Tourists paid nearly $160 to get a rural road. To get to a rural road that the environs of Molapeda without a guide or a destination. And that is Perilous in Peru. That should be the name of a good movie, folks. Perilous in Peru. I think it's going to be the sequel to Sleepless in Seattle, right? So anyway, one survey found 30% of travelers use AI tools and AI travel sites to plan their trips. It's not just fake places that are a problem when using AI to plan trips and excursions. They say the husband recently used ChatGPT to plan a sunset viewing trip on Mount Mizzen. They set off at 1500 to hike the mountain summit in time for the sunset, exactly as ChatGPT had instructed them. The problem showed up. The creator who runs a blog about traveling in Japan, when we were about to descend the mountain via the ropeway station, ChatGPT said the last ropeway was at 1730, but in reality, the ropeway was already closed. We were stuck at the top of the mountain. Yep. There you go. Another couple went to see a scenic cable car attraction in Malaysia, only find it was made up by AI. Neither the location nor the cable cars are real. Don't rely on AI to plan your vacation. Of course, my apologies to all you folks in Texas. We have definitely have to stop the gun violence against the internet. But apparently one stray bullet crashed the internet for several big cities in Texas. Internet can be more physically vulnerable than you think. Last week, thousands of people in North and Central Texas were suddenly knocked offline. The cause is a bullet. The outage hit cities all across the state, including Dallas, Irving, Plano, Arlington, Austin, and San Antonio. By the way, if you've traveled through Dallas, it would take you an entire day of driving to hit all of those cities. It would take an entire day to drive through all of those cities. That is how far out this has spread. All right. Like I used to drive down through Texas for a conference. It took me like 9 hours to get to the Texas border and 10 hours to get from the Texas border just to Austin, Texas. Okay. Driving from 2 states away. All right. So they said a stray bullet had hit a line of fiber optic cable, knocking out tens of thousands of people offline. It actually went further than that. Oakland, California also went offline after people allegedly fired 17 rounds into the air near one of the company's fiber lines. 30,000 people were offline during that one. And I did confirm I know some people that lost internet due to this. So interesting. Let me know if you are among those in the comments. If you want to help support the channel, have a look at the shop.switchedtolinux.com. We have hats, t-shirts, coffee cups, all sorts of other fun stuff over there on the website shop.switchedtolinux.com. With that, let's go ahead and we will see if I can't find a beast to feed. Of course there are. Okay, he's back behind me. I can find that one beast. I don't know where the other beast is, but it's a small van. Maybe she'll come running and hear us. But let's go ahead and jump up to the kitty cam, and we will see what we can do here. Hey, kitty, kitty. You want some kitty, kitty stuff, huh? Do you? Come here, buddy. Yeah, come here. Whoa, bink. Kitty, kitty. Well, apparently we will only feed one kitty today. The other kitty is MIA. All right, let's go ahead and have a look here. We got 14 still watching on Rumble. Let's see if I can figure out where it was. Kali counts as Ubuntu. Kidding, of course, but it does use the same CLI. Well, I mean, I use the Ubuntu-based version of Linux Mint. Does that count? Just need compression during production to regulate the volume issues. Totally realistic launch. Katy Perry into space. Never mind the door opening before it was supposed to be able to. There you go. All right. Yeah, once again, we are losing most of the chat from Odyssey for whatever reason. Where it's only showing me the last few Odyssey comments. 12th birthday, I got a gas mask, a bag of sulfur, and a bag of potassium nitrate, bag of charcoal, instructions to make black powder of it. Explosion. Yikes. Raised on hose water neglect. Explosives if you were lucky. Well, you know. Yeah, I would probably rather not admit to my exploits on camera, you know. Got rid of my Google account recently. There you go. Yeah. Just moved to Proton Mail. There's YouTube, was using FreeTube, but Google has been making it hard. Uh-oh. Yeah, you can always get another email and migrate everything important over there. YouTube with no account is either using PocketTube extension or preferably FreeTube. Yep. Vivaldi and encrypted service. Well, it's it's a web browser. All right. Switching camera. All right. Yeah, apparently no, I don't think it froze. Yeah, the camera did not froze. The cat just hasn't moved. The cat's just kind of sitting there. Yeah, I sometimes keep the camera on the cat, but oh, actually no, the camera. Wait, I can't tell if the camera froze or not. I don't think it did. How you doing, buddy? Yeah. All right. Let's check in on the tubies. Coming year, there will be plenty to choose from on the open market in computers. DigitalOcean is awesome. Yeah. What do you think, buddy? Yeah. All right. I'm using my laptop, MSI. That's a MSI laptop. Yep. Are they brown and kind of arrowhead shape? I think you're talking about the bugs. Sort of. Yeah, I think so. Another chart about... Yeah, there's a chart about FAFO. That's correct. Will you cover Ubuntu removing X on GNOME and replacing GNU with Rust? I don't know, maybe. To be honest, I haven't followed Ubuntu development in a while. DIY NAS looks better all the time. I've been using Open Media Vault for almost a decade now. Actually, I think I have been using it for a decade now. Almost a decade now. I think I set mine up in 2017, maybe. It's just honest, I'd use an AI to send training data to the other AI to cash in on the money. Yeah. Company reports it does not store the images, but the breaches prove that, so it couldn't. People do a class action for false advertising. Yeah, that is true. Yeah, well, except if you're referring to the Discord thing, as soon as it came out, you got an immediate notification. It's literally the same exact thing that, it's like a new playbook. Same exact thing that happened with Roku. Roku had a data breach, and within a couple of days, they pushed out a new TOS that you were forced to agree to. There was no opt-out. There was no decline. It was agree or shut your television system off. And that forced you into a binding arbitration, so you could not sue for the data breach. So Discord has a data breach. They just did the exact same thing. And so it's becoming a refrain now where a company is going to do, they get breached, and immediately within 24 hours, they change their terms of service that you cannot take action for the previous faults that they had done, which is seriously screwed up and should not be allowed. But yeah, so that's the problem with that. So Jehovah's Witnesses are like the thing you want to shoo away. Shoot. Go back to your false prophecy tower. There you go. I knew how to get around the algorithm so it looks like it was human, losing 3, then win 2 big ones. Yeah. Bezos thinks he will create a space platform for the elites, and for us poor people will be on the earth. He forgot that the Lord will come back and their plan will not happen. Yes. Oh yeah, he's completely screwed up. Even Lord Bezos will bow down before the one true Lord Jesus Christ in the end times. And if he has not repented his soul, he will be cast into hell, and all his money can't save him. What are you going to do? Give it all to God? Sorry, not only do I own the cattle on 1,000 hills, I also own the hills that you're standing on. Get off my land, into the lake of fire with you. And I'll take your money while you're at it. I'm going to donate it to every cause you hate. All right. Claude made up a fake prison the other day. It says it was 18,000 miles long. We need that one. Does this make the internet let in due to the outages? Yeah. Saw a video on YouTube where a cat in a supermarket holding on to a large piece of steak. If there are arrowhead shapes in brown, they're probably the brown marmoset stink bug. They built bunkers to stop the rapture. Yeah, that's the evil forces thinking they're going to get around God. Like, it didn't work for Satan, the most powerful created being in the universe. Yet you, a mere human, thinks it's going to work for you. Good luck with that. Enjoy your stay in the lake of fire. You'll be there a while. All right. I think we've kind of gotten the end of our comments down there. Dang, you guys are late. That's right. All right. Until next time. Yep. Yeah, we're going to wrap it up here. Thanks for watching, everybody. We will catch you all next time.